I'll start off this morning reading some very cheerful scripture. Psalm 77, verses 1 through 9. I cried out to God for help. I cried out to God to hear me. Anybody ever cry out to God for help? Just, God, please hear me right now. When I was in distress, I sought the Lord. At night, I stretched out untiring hands, and I would not be comforted. I remember you, God, and I groaned. I meditated, and my spirit grew faint. You kept my eyes from closing. I was too troubled to speak. I thought about the former days, the years of long ago. I remember my songs in the night. My heart meditated, and my spirit asked, will the Lord reject forever? Will He never show His favor again? Has His unfailing love vanished forever? Has His promise failed for all time? Has God forgotten to be merciful? Has He in anger withheld His compassion? Let's pray real quick, because I know that was some very cheerful scripture to start the service with. But we'll get there. Dear Father, I just thank you, Lord. Lord, maybe, there's plenty of cheerful psalms to pick that we could have started with this morning. But God, I want you to speak through this word, Lord. Because we've all been in this situation, God. We've all been in this moment where we've cried out to you, God, and sometimes it's felt like our cries just stop at the ceiling, God. And I pray, Lord, that you speak to us this morning. I don't know what each person in here is dealing with, God, what situations they have to go face tomorrow, or even after they leave this building, God, that they got to go face, God. But you do, Lord. You know our situation. You know our hearts, Lord. And I pray, Lord, that you just speak a word directly to each heart this morning, God. That you speak to them what they need, Lord. A word, a loving word, Lord. A word to empower them, to give them courage. Whatever it is, God, you can supply all needs this morning, God. And I just thank you, Lord. I thank you for your word. I want to give you all the honor and praise this morning. So I wanted to start with this morning because as good as you would like to admit that you are and you've never doubted or anything like that, I feel like we've all been in this situation. And if not, I know I can raise my hand and say that I've been in a place like this where it was just like, God, where are you at? Why aren't you hearing my cries of help? I've been crying to you. I've been crying to you all night, it says. But some of us, you think, I've been crying to you for years now, right? Some of you shaking your head. Some of you shaking your head. Sometimes it feels like, you've just been left in a situation or in a thing that you are just like, God, you are not getting this, God. You are not getting what I need right now. And it just seems like our prayers hit the ceiling, and you want to get to a point. And I'm sure many of us have got here. We get to a point to where we're just like, your position is just, you get to a point where you just really just want to sit down and quit and just be like, all right, God, I'm done. I've cried out to you. I've tried living right. I've tried doing everything that I think you want me to do, and it's not working. And you're like, okay, I'm done. And you lay down and quit. And this is your position, is you're sitting down and you're laying down. And this is your position now. And so, that's what I want to talk to you today about. How position is everything, okay? And life examples here, okay? Mom, you can help me out with this, and I talked to Brandon about it. But a batter stance, right? Okay? A batter stance. A batter stance is very important. There's all these little things that you got to get right, because it can mean a difference from hitting it over the fence or hitting a base run or just popping it up and getting out. Am I right, Mom? Am I right? I was talking to Brandon yesterday. He actually gave me a story. He said, I watched our coach in high school tell one kid to simply move his arms back just a little bit and be quicker to the ball, and the very next hit, he hit it over the fence. It's little things like that position matters. If you're too low on the bat, Mom was a softball coach for context. Some of you know why I'm referring to Mom, but my mom was a softball coach. But you can be too low on the bat, and then you need to choke up, and that'll help. And if your feet are too wide, or if you're like this is not a good motion to swing a bat. Position is everything. It makes a difference. Here's one that I hold near and dear to my heart. When you're lifting stuff, positioning could mean either you're just going to pick it up just fine, or for a couple of days you're not going to be able to stand up straight. And I don't know if you guys noticed last week, but I wasn't moving around as much as I was, and I snuck my back brace underneath my clothes last week, and I was very stiff because a couple days before that I couldn't stand up straight because I hurt my back. And so lifting things, your position on how you lift stuff, it matters, because you can end up hurting yourself.
Right. That is good.
I got a visual illustration for that. Who thinks they can bend over and touch their toes? I don't want... Mom? Okay, yeah, that'd be good. All right, Mom, can you come up here?
No.
You think? Well, I didn't want to. I was just thinking. I wasn't going to pick someone out of the crowd. I was going to ask. All right, Mom, let's see. Can you bend over and touch your toes? All right. Okay, she did it.
Yeah.
Okay, come over here. Put your back against the wall and your heels against the wall. I mean, just flat against the wall. All right, now bend over and touch your toes. No. You didn't have to move your feet last time. No, okay, go ahead. Try again. We'll give you a shot. No, okay, all right. But we saw her bend over and touch her toes. See, positioning is everything. The reason why she couldn't do it here is because when you bend over and touch your toes here, I'm going to drop some science on you here. Your center of gravity is what allows you to bend over and touch, well, if you can, to bend over and touch your toes. What you're doing essentially is you're sticking your butt out so you can keep your center of gravity. But when you get up against the wall, you can't compensate, and you can't fix your center of gravity, so you end up falling because you can't get in the right position to bend over and touch your toes. Position is everything. It is everything. So we're going to read Mark chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. And this is a very familiar story if you've been in church for any sort of time at all. A few days later, when Jesus again entered Capernaum, the people heard that he had come home. So many gathered that there was no room left. No room left. I said, I think last week, where Jesus is, that's where the crowd is. Not even outside the door. And he preached the word to them. There wasn't even room outside this place. That's how many people were there that you couldn't even be at this building because there wasn't room outside of this place. And he preached the word to them. Some men came, bringing to him a paralytic carried by 4 of them. And then, we're not going to put verse 4 up there, but I want you to just, the starting of verse 4 is, since they couldn't get to him, him to Jesus because of the crowd. So they couldn't get the man that they were carrying to Jesus because of the crowd. It was so great. And let's pretend for a minute that these 4 men are like some of us today, that whenever it's hard to get to God, we just kind of quit on it. We just think, okay, well, God, this isn't, it's not working. So I don't know what you're doing. I don't know where you're at, but this isn't working. So I'm just going to lay down and quit right now. I'm just going to give up on trying to get to you, because I don't think you're hearing this. I don't think you're getting. So let's take that mindset today and let's apply it to this story real quick. And don't worry, we'll finish the real story. But okay, let's say I don't know what kind of news they had back then, but maybe Capernaum Gazette. I don't know. All right, let's say I'm a reporter for the Capernaum Gazette, and because when there's a big crowd, there's always media there reporting on what's going on, right? Whether if there's a concert or something else, wherever there's a big crowd or big news, there's some sort of media. And so let's just say the media was there this day, and they saw the 4 men leaving. Let's say they decide, you know what? There's no way we're getting this guy to Jesus. This isn't just going to happen. So we let's, okay, all right. Hey, how are you doing? I'm whatever. They had weird names back then. Babu. I'm Babu with the Capernaum Gazette, and I see that you're carrying this man. Why are you carrying this man, and where are you going? Couldn't Jesus? We know that Jesus has performed miracles. We've heard. Couldn't Jesus heal this guy? And so 4 guys. Well, we showed up, and yeah, we were bringing this paralyzed man. This is a paralyzed man, and we were going to get him to Jesus to see if he could heal him. But it was too crowded. There was no way in, and there was no way we were going to get to Jesus today. So we just got to go home. Be like, oh well, that's disappointing. I'm sorry to hear that. I wish that would have been a cool story if you could have got to Jesus somehow. If you could have got him to Jesus somehow, that would have been a cool story, and that would have been a better report on. that's us sometimes. That is us. We see the crowd, we see the obstacles, and we start to think, man, there's no way this. How am I going to get to God? And you know, you might even be in a point where old things that used to make you feel close to God, or that you knew that you were drawing close to God, aren't even working anymore. I had one person tell me one time, word for word, they told me that you know, the things that I used to do, they just don't work for me anymore. They're just, I'm not feeling that. You know, maybe that worship song that always used to, you have those worship songs that always put you right there, and you're just, you're holding back your man tears if you're a guy, but and you're just like, no, but it puts you right there, and maybe that's not there anymore, and you're just like, man, I don't know what to do to get to God anymore. But maybe we're coming at it from the wrong position. Maybe we need to change our position approaching God in these situations, because we're coming from a place of distance now, because we feel distant from God. So when you leave your house late, let's say you had a meeting, right? And you had to be there at a certain time. When you leave your house late, what are the chances are? What's going to happen when you get to that meeting? What do you think is going to happen when you get to that meeting? Chances are you're going to be late to that meeting. If you got to be at a meeting, on time, and you leave your house late, you're probably going to be at the meeting late. So if you start at a distance from God, and coming from, I'm trying to approach God, but I don't feel God near to me, and I don't feel it. If you start with that mindset of, oh, I'm already far away from God, then it's no wonder that when you're trying to approach God, that you still just feel distant from Him. Yeah, you could make up that time, driving fast, but then you're breaking law. You're making it more difficult on yourself to get there on time, right, when you leave late. So you are actually making it more difficult on yourself to get back to God, to feel that presence, to receive whatever it is that you're trying to do to get to God. You're making it a disadvantage for yourself by laying down and quitting and thinking you're distant from God. Change your position. We're going to finish reading our story here. Verse 4. Since they could not get to him, to Jesus, because of the crowd, they made an opening in the roof. We know the story. They made an opening in the roof above Jesus by digging through it, and then lowered the mat the man was laying on. When Jesus saw their faith, He said to the paralyzed man, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Amen. Some side notes on this. It says some men. Right? Well, I know when we tell the story, four guys brought their friend. That's not what it says. It says some men. So this could have just been some random foreman. Their faith to do this, to change their position, to see the obstacles, to see the crowd and think, you know what, there's no way I'm getting in. Because some of us, we don't like crowds, right? I know my friend Brent, I'm like, yeah, I want to put you in this situation because I know you'd wiggle and squirm, because he just doesn't like people. And he doesn't like a lot of people. I don't really blame him for not liking people. People are hard to like sometimes. But he doesn't like being in a crowd of people. It freaks him out. And sometimes, being a good friend, I like to put him in those situations. To see him squirm. But it just says some men. And we won't even do it for ourselves sometimes to get up and change our position to try to get to God. You see, I know what God is willing to do to get to you, but what are you willing to do to get to God? What is it that you are willing to do to get to God? What obstacles are you willing to go around? What are you willing to climb on a roof and dig through the roof to get to God? Some of you, that's going to be hard for you. You're afraid of heights. Rachel jokingly said, I want to get on, because I'm not getting the Christmas lights down fast enough. She said, I want to get on the roof and get them down. I'm like, yeah, right. Rachel doesn't like heights. And I know there's no way you're getting on a roof. But some men, what are we willing to do to get to God? Are we willing to change our position? But how do we go from like the beginning of Psalm 77? How do we go from, has His unfailing love vanished forever? Has His promise failed me for all time? How do we go from that and get from laying down and quitting to changing our position? Well, good thing we didn't finish Psalm 77. We're going to start back up, verse 10. Then I thought. There's a good thing. Instead of complaining about how far God is away from you and saying, God, where are you at? Why aren't you here? And really just complaining to Him, why don't you start thinking instead of complaining? Why don't you just you shut your mouth for a little bit and start thinking instead of complaining, right? Then I thought, to this I will appeal. The years when the Most High stretched out His right hand. I will remember the deeds of the Lord. Yes, I will remember your miracles of long ago. When I'm feeling distant from God, what's the best way to get back close to Him? Let me remember the past things when God did not let me down. Let me remember those times when He did let me down, when I know He was close to me. The miracles of long ago. I will consider all your works and meditate on your mighty deeds. Your ways, God, are holy. What God is as great as our God? You are the God who performs miracles. You display your power among the peoples. With your mighty arm, you redeem your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. Start to remember the past times when God came through for you. That's the best way. That's the best way to change from coming from a distant place. Now instead of leaving late, whenever we're remembering the closeness, now we're leaving on time to get where we're going on time. When we leave, when we start to try to approach God again with a closeness, we already know He's there. We already remember. We're already feeling that closeness. And then, well, bam, there it is. It's right there. Because you've changed. You've simply moved your hands up to hit that home run instead of hitting the base run. You've simply just changed your thinking and your position when approaching God. One thing, though, about remembering past miracles. Here's a warning. Whenever we try to remember past miracles, we think, oh, okay, well, then that's how I need to do it again this time. Can you imagine if the Israelites, every time they had an enemy, they're like, okay, here's the battle plan. We'll get them to chase us to the Red Sea, and then God will part the Red Sea, and then we'll run through, and then He'll close the waves on them, right? They would have found out real quick that only worked one time, because God only did it that way one time. Yeah, He parted waters for them again. It was just a river, but it wasn't the Red Sea. And so just to warn you, whenever we start to think on past, I know I've been guilty of this, when we start to think on the ways God has helped us in the past, we start to think, well, what did I do in that moment? What did I do? And it's like, well, really, if you really think about it, you did nothing in that moment. But that's how we start to think, what did I do? I just need to repeat what I did in that moment. And it's like, no, this is what God did. And so it's good to remember past things, but don't go back to repeat them. Don't go back and think, oh, if I do it this way again. And the Israelites learned that lesson. The Israelites actually did learn that lesson about, what is it, the staff that they were carrying around. Yeah, and they did try it the same way again, and it did work. What are we willing to do to get to God? And baby Christians, you tell them, oh, God's always with you. He's going to be with you, and He is. He is always with you. But then, you get into a hardship experience. Christians know this, that you don't always, and you're willing to admit it, you don't always feel that closeness to God. And you would think, why would God why would He withdraw like that? Why would He make it seem, and, before I get to, let's read Hosea. We're going to read Hosea. It would be a good thing to go back and read. I don't want to read all of it, but it's Hosea 11. And we're going to read verse 1, 7, 8, 9. So verse 1, when Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. So this is God, He says, when Israel is my child, I called them out of Egypt. He loves us, and that's the same for us today, that you could say He called us out of sin. Right? Brother Steve said this morning that we don't choose God, God chooses us, and you can kind of get in some predestination things, but I look at that as, God had options, right? God had options. He didn't have to choose us. But as a people, if we had options versus God, we might not always choose God. And I mean, that's you can see that today, that there's options and not everybody chooses God. And so I think that's when God says, I chose you, He's like, I had options. I chose you. That's right. And so He called us, and He's called us out of sin. Verse 7, and then verse 7, things not going good. We know that Israel and God, it's a love-hate relationship with Israel and God. My people, it's never a hate relationship from God, though. It's always just Israel, they can't ever get their act together. And to be honest with us, some of us, we could say, yeah, that's me too. I can't ever get my act together. Verse 7, my people are determined to turn from me. Even though they call me God Most High, I will by no means exalt them. He said, my people are determined to turn from me. And what I skipped there, it's just more of that. It's just how God is explaining that. Israel is turning. Verse 5. Will they return to Egypt? You know, just things like that. And then verse 8 and 9. And here's the thing about God. Well, I said, I know what God will do to get to you. How can I give you up, Ephraim? How can I hand you over, Israel? How can I treat you like Admah? How can I make you like Zeboim? My heart is changed within me. All my compassion is aroused. I will not carry out my fierce anger, nor will I devastate Ephraim again. For I am God and not a man. The Holy One among you, I will not come against their cities. Even though God has all the right to remove himself from us, he says, I'm not man, I'm God. And I chose you. So I'm not removing myself. But there is still those times. There is still those times where it feels like, man, God, where are you at? And we're going to read Deuteronomy 13, 1 through 4. And if a prophet or one who foretells by dreams appears among you and announces to you a miraculous sign or wonder, and if the sign or wonder of which he has spoken takes place, and he says, let us follow other gods you have not known, and let us worship them. You must not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer. The Lord your God is testing you to find out whether you love him with all your heart, with all your soul. It is the Lord your God you must follow, and him you must revere. Keep his commands and obey him, serve him, and hold fast to him. Now, not a lot of preachers might want to not, say that God's going to test us. But he is. So maybe why it seems difficult to get to God in a moment. Maybe he's testing you. Maybe he's trying to see if you truly love him with all your heart and soul. If it don't matter the obstacles that are in your way. If you love him with all your heart and soul, you don't care if it seems like it's hard to get to God. You're not going to stop ever trying to get to him. If you truly love him. And so, I'm here to tell you today that maybe God has withdrawn a little bit or made it seem a little bit harder to get to him to test you. But let me tell you something, that if you persevere through that, how much better is it going to be when you get finally back to that closeness that you're wanting? When you finally go through that obstacle and find a way to crawl up on the roof and dig through there and lower your friend and he gets healed, and you finally come back into the presence of him and that closeness or whatever it is you were seeking from God. How much better is it going to be? And God understands that so much better than we do. He says, you know what? If I will remove myself just a little bit, just to see if they'll pursue me, then I know that they're true. Then I know that their heart is true and full of love for me, and their whole soul is after me.
That's right. Amen. That's right.
What obstacles are you willing to face? What about when there's not even room on the outside? What about when the things that used to work don't work anymore? Are you willing to change your position to find some new things that help you get to God? Find some new ways to help you get to God. Yeah, the old ways were easy, right? Yeah, that was an easy way to get to God. I just turn this worship song and boom, I'm already there. I'm already, the Spirit's there and everything. Guys, that's easy. What are you willing to do when it's hard to get to God?
That's right.
Are you willing to change your position? We talked about that dirty word last week, right? Change. We don't like it. But I saw someone post something and it said, change and comfort you can't have simultaneously.
Right.
You can't have change and comfort
That's true.
simultaneously. Are you willing to change your position this morning? To get closer to God? When you feel like you just want to lay down and quit right now. And I don't know. I know that's not everybody in here. I know not everybody is in a lay down position like, oh, I'm quitting right now. But I believe that like I said, I don't know every situation that everybody faces. I don't know when you leave this place what you got to go face. I don't know what's going to happen this week. None of us do, but God does. And you might get to that position where you're going to lay down and quit. Change your position. Remember the times when He was faithful to you. Don't start at a distance. Don't start late, because then you show up late. Don't start at a distance. Remember the closeness and go from there. But know that God might be testing you in this moment. And you got to ask yourself, do I truly love God with all my heart and all my soul, that I'm willing to pursue Him through this test, through this difficultness? Even Jesus went to the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. He went to be tested.
Yes.
Yeah, I know Jesus was Son of God and had a leg up on us and everything, and we all can't be Jesus in here. To be honest with you, nobody can. But that just shows the humanity that Jesus even went to be tested.
That's right.
And it's okay to be tested by God. Some people might be angry at that, like, why would God, this good God, test us? And it's just to make us better, to make our love for Him better. That's why He would do that. Why do you have tests in school? To make sure you know the stuff that you're learning. If you never gave a test, especially at Caney Valley, all you have to do is write down the answers when the teacher gave them to you. Or show up early. I graduated high school really because we all showed up early. One person would have one assignment, one person would have the other assignment. And I'm giving away, Mom doesn't teach there anymore, so I can give the secret today. But, and then you just all showed up and then copied off everybody. And, hey, you did what you had to do, okay? I say I graduated high school because of art classes, because I took so many of those. But if He doesn't test you, how do you know that you know in your heart that you're truly willing to pursue Him? Because, times aren't, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. Times, right now, I can post on there, hey, we're having service at 11 o'clock, and you can freely come through the door when you want to. You can leave when you want to. Nobody's holding you here against your will. But you never know when a time may come where it's not easy to get to God. Physically, it's here. And I'm trusting that, God's not going to let things just get too crazy. But we know in His Word it says that it's going to get pretty crazy at the end of this thing. And I don't know when that's going to happen. But are we prepared to face the hardship? Are we prepared to face the test? Do we love Him enough to change our position today, to get back to Him?
That's right.
So we're going to end in prayer. And Brother Steve, would you come up here? And we'll pray generally, but if anyone needs any specific prayer, if you are facing something today that you're like, man, I need to. You're right. I am laid down and I have just quit, and I'm in a sitting position and I'm just almost ready to give up and say, okay, God, you're not listening. The prayers are stopping at the roof, right? And you're not getting it, God. I love that when we say that God's not getting it. But we think that sometimes, it's like, God, don't you see what's going on? Don't you see what's going on in my life? He's like, yeah, what are you doing about it? And so if you have a situation like that, and you want to open up about it, don't worry, we're not going to go post on, let everybody share it on Facebook of what you're facing today. But we'd like to pray over you if you do have a situation like that. But let's just pray. So, like I said,